Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day and God bless you. Let's get into the news. But I just had to comment on yet another woke narrative that has absolutely blown up in the face of the lamestream media. I'm sure you all know by now of the horrific shooting in Colorado Springs at a gay bar called Club Q. 5 people were murdered in cold blood, dozens more injured. It was absolutely horrific. But I have to admit that the moment I heard it was at a gay bar, I knew exactly what was about to follow coming out of the bowels of legacy media. And here's a sample of what we were treated to. Everyone listen to this. It's a campaign being driven by members of Congress and conservative influencers on social media, as well as the right's most favorite TV network, Fox News. Those incidents of drag events I mentioned a few moments ago. They happened within the context of conservative media personalities, fear-mongering against queer folks, and respected messengers from TV networks saying that these people are wrong, and they're trying to damage your children. We have a long history of the LGBTQ community being victimized, demonized by, especially right-wing media and Republicans. You have anti-LGBTQ rhetoric spewed on the most watched hours on Fox News at a regular clip against the U.S. military, against gay men and women, against gay teachers, against their right to exist. Okay, folks. So as you could see there, the legacy media treated us to a very clear, coherent narrative surrounding the shooting. The shooter was a right-wing, MAGA-obsessed anti-LGBTQ bigot fueled by the hateful rhetoric of right-wing influences, and all of those influences must be for the sake of humanity everywhere. All of those influences need to be shut down immediately, politically, economically, culturally cancelled across the board, no discussion, no questions asked. There was just one problem. One little itty-bitty problem with that narrative. As it turns out, what the shooter is himself non-binary. You cannot make this up. According to his lawyers, the alleged shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, is himself a fellow member of the LGBTQ community. In fact, lawyers are insisting that the court properly gender Anderson Lee Aldrich as they them, and instead of calling in Mr. Aldrich, he is to be called MCs. Aldrich MX Aldrich, which ironically means that every single media pundit throughout the whole of the legacy media that you just saw has been consistently misgendering the accused gunman now. While the exact motive for the shooting is still unclear, as if evil needs a motive. What is clear is that the identity politics that framed this fabricated media narrative have utterly imploded. As it turns out, this narrative, this legacy media deliberately fabricated narrative, others called simply lies, could not have been possibly more wrong. It is beyond humiliating. But I think we're all noticing a pattern here, aren't we? Are you noticing a pattern that whenever the shooter is, say, a white police officer, shooting a young black male, or in this case, someone killing senselessly, horrifically killing people in the LGBT community? You notice that the media treats this radically differently than when the assailant turns out to be, say for example, a Muslim? Isn't it interesting that in the one case, the assailant is part of a much wider system of hatred that needs to immediately be disbanded? Whereas in the other case, it's just a random isolated incident? Don't you dare say any more than that. There is a very clear and very nefarious reason for this discrepancy. And I'm going to show you exactly what it is. And their virtual ignoring of the Walker Show massacre that Darrell Brooks was just convicted of perpetrating. I don't need to get into the details of each, but as I'm sure you recall, Kyle Rittenhouse was consistently depicted as a symbol of systemic white supremacy. While Darrell Brooks, he acted completely in isolation of any other social factor. So what was the deal with this media-inflicted discrepancy? Well, it all goes back to a woke neo-Marxist notion known as the emancipatory myth. The emancipatory myth is a Marxist-inspired political idea that re-envisions the state as a grand liberator of individuals from traditions and customs that are now considered oppressive and discriminatory. What we have to understand is that during the whole the 20th century, with the rise of thoroughly globalist society, particularly after World War II, our relationship to the government fundamentally changed. While the government was previously ordained to protect the moral institutions that made for a virtuous society, a globalized society increasingly believed that it was now the duty of secularized globalist government to expel any institution, particularly the church, particularly the traditional family and such, from the public square, so as to remove all moral and institutional impediments that blocked people from exercising autonomy over their own life circumstances. This is what's technically known as emancipatory politics. And it's been the key political paradigm for really the last half-century. Because the media is the telecommunicative technology that holds globalized society together, it is the primary purveyor of the emancipatory myth, which means that the narrative is the news, the emancipatory myth. The myth that our social systems are inherently racist, sexist, and bigoted is the fundamental narrative by which all news events are interpreted and organized. This is why a shooting at a gay bar is indicative of a homophobic political society's ideology, whatever, but a massacre at a predominantly white Christmas parade carried out by a black man, it's just an isolated incident with no social ramifications whatsoever. It's because one event fits into a neo-Marxist emancipatory myth, while the other one simply doesn't. So what happens then? What happens when it turns out that the shooter was himself part of the LGBT community, like in this case? In other words, what happens when the event and its details no longer fit the narrative? Well, unsurprisingly, the media collectively dropped the story. According to the Media Research Center, after it was revealed that Aldrich was himself non-binary, NBC dropped any mention of the shooting on Wednesday's Today's Show, while ABC's Good Morning America simply refused to report on his non-binary gender. That's legacy media. The narrative is the news and narrative that is becoming for more and more people, increasingly, and obviously, absurd. And this is some big news. The new special counsel to Trump will end without indictments. We know this because there was already a special counsel with Robert Mueller. That didn't end in any indictment of Donald Trump. The Steele dossier was completely fabricated. They couldn't prove any of the absurd allegations against Trump that he was installed by another country. And these people deny results in a more profound manner than anyone ever has in the history United States of America, but they get away with it because wonderful, highly educated, morally superior sensibilities are what count in this day and age are, at least within American politics. Right now, this is an article about Jack Smith, Trump's new special counsel investigating his attempts to overturn 2 years ago, and his in January and Mar-a-Lago and classified data. He already had the DOJ already has everything that Trump took to Mar-a-Lago. They didn't need to. They could have indicted him right then and there. They have everything they need. Okay. But they didn't indict him. They don't have a crime. He's a former president. And the Supreme Court as well as previous presidents have done similar, or in some cases worse. And then you had Secretary Clinton who had top-secret intel siphoned to cloud servers outside the US government. So number one, they can't indict him for Mar-a-Lago. Because if they could have they would have. The special counsel isn't going to find anything that DOJ doesn't already have. So again, it's basic logic. You could have indicted Clinton and Comey went to bat and covered that all up. And you can watch the short on this channel. No reasonable prosecutor would indict. Even though there is the violations and she broke the law. Then you have the issue of trying to overturn or challenge results and not accepting results. Democrats have done that. From day one. They even had a public service announcement with celebrities, a commercial begging the entire American political system not to accept his defeat of Clinton. Okay. You also have this, and this is very important. Okay. The Federal Bureau of Investigation already looked at this. Exclusive Federal Bureau of Investigation finds scant evidence so that it was coordinated. Okay. So there you go. This was what last year, obviously. But they had already investigated, they found that it wasn't coordinated. And it was a terrible, terrible day. But you had a whole summer of that. And I agree with why people were demonstrating that summer, but she had a whole summer of that, with $1 to $2 billion in property damage. I'm not going to indict Trump for that either. Now, I do think that they're heading towards some kind of indictment. I don't think for some reason I don't see the special counsel recommending an indictment because the DOJ already had all the evidence. The DOJ has lawyers utterly, prosecutors desperate, not just wanting Trump indicted, they are desperate to have Trump. And Jabate will do anything to find a crime against this man, anything. Okay. Trump has been treated in a manner that no other politician, Republican or Democrat, has been treated. Find me a time when a former president, Republican or Democrat, had the Federal Bureau of Investigation conduct a raid at their residence. It's never happened before. Okay, And then you have so many other examples. Find me a Biden dossier or a Clinton dossier. You don't even need dossiers for these people. Just look at Hunter or probably Bill. Okay. You don't even need like their actual real lives or the fabricated nonsense within a dossier purchased against Trump. So then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene. Home and Rule will define Garland special counsel, so the House can defund the special counsel. Now the Senate could be an issue in the Senate. Okay. Hopefully Herschel Walker wins, but you get the vice president as the tiebreaker. But then you could have the House of Representatives stole any spending bill, so or a budget to ensure that, and so you'd have gridlock. You could have a government shutdown over this. And if Republicans are smart, Trump Republicans, or Kevin McCarthy is smart, he will call their bluff. They don't need a special counsel. The special counsel has already been preceded by desperate prosecutors trying desperately to find something on Trump, but they can't because he didn't commit a crime. Hunter Hillary, yes, they committed crimes, to different standards of justice for two different political parties in the United States of America. If Hunter Hillary aren't indicted, it's because the entire American political system is covering up and propping them up, and we know this. We saw what took place with Twitter, and what's taking place. Watch the segments prior to this one. That's why they're so upset that Elon Musk took over Twitter. Oh my God. Now we have to listen to actual stories. Highlighting corruption and criminality within the Democratic Party, and you will suppress that. Oh, no. So they're used to having every single advantage. The issue, ladies and gentlemen, with this special counsel is that it is public, or it's an endless stream of public relations. It's an endless stream of negative articles. Contempt, disdain, distrust. This bolsters the flawed belief that Trump is the embodiment of criminality. He hasn't committed a crime. Okay, we know that Clinton did. But ladies and gentlemen, you have a situation, people, where the House of Representatives, investigating Hunter FTX, all the other corrupt and likely criminal examples of foul play within the Democratic Party. You have the Washington Post, the New York Times, you have all these publications on the defensive. Oh my God, they're going to impeach Biden, and they will impeach Biden. This is a phony fake impeachment with Trump when they impeached him for an ellipsis or for a crime that for crimes, the crimes of other people that had nothing to do with him. He didn't tell people to do anything. He didn't say get in people's faces the way certain Democratic politicians did. Okay. When Biden will get impeached, and you won't have Twitter suppressing dialogue, discord, debate, discourse, debate, discussion, and we're going to find out the extent of the criminality that will overshadow the special counsel. The first special counsel ended with actually exonerating Trump. It was a complete failure. Even a great many Democrats, especially the far left, they're resigned to the fact that the DOJ is not going to indict Trump. And the DOJ probably like this is the thing. I am torn between them indicting Trump just to stop him politically, and then fearing a precedent because then Republicans will indict Biden or Hillary or Bill. Biden took place in business activity. Regarding Hunter meeting his associates, that is potentially criminal. Okay. It's there. There are laws pertaining to graft and potential bribery schemes. You can't do that. You can't promise somebody you can't. You shouldn't. I don't even think it's even illegal to meet with hundreds business associates as vice president, which Biden lied about. So these are like actual felonies. Okay. And you don't have that with Trump. You have 150 suspicious activity reports between banks and institutions regarding Hunter and Joe. You don't have that with Trump. They don't have anything with the classified data. As a former president, he could declassify anything he wants, and so they don't have anything. But I'm thinking, like, are they just going to indict him for something that he can prove in a court of law he didn't like, that wasn't a crime, or that he was innocent of? And are they worried about the repercussions on their end? I think the more we find out about Hunter and Joe, and in the impeachment, the less likely it is, though it's interesting in your work either way. But I just think in terms of politics, they must understand that Trump is remaking the Republican Party into his own image, which is actually nothing to do with the apoplectic and hysterical vision of what Trump represents the Democrats. It's a populist political party now. That is an anti-interventionist or anti-counterinsurgency conflict political party, the antithesis of Lincoln Project, loose Cheney foreign policy, and focuses on economic growth. So that's what Mitt Romney is, not that type of Republican Trump is. So it's interesting. This will amount to nothing very likely. It'll be overshadowed by all the investigations within the House of Representatives. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Of course, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course possibly subscribe if you're up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys